Hey, let me start this conversation with a Monday morning experience that most of you know like the back of your hand. You sit down with the numbers from the weekend, right? Attendance, giving, maybe a baptism count. That would be amazing if you got to do that every Monday. You're remembering everything that happened on Sunday. You're looking at the numbers. You compare it to last month. You compare it to last year. You drop it into a report, right? Eventually the board sees it. Everybody nods, right? And there's this shared feeling in the room that you, because you have the metrics, that you are on top of things. And then here's the part nobody says out loud. Nothing actually changes because of those meetings, because of those reports. The numbers can't change. They already happened. You're sitting there reviewing a game that ended before you ever walked in. I mean, think about it. It's almost like the difference between a dashboard and a scoreboard. A dashboard shows what has happened. A scoreboard is showing where you are in the game right now. That's what I want to talk about today. And it isn't because those metrics, those lag metrics don't matter. They do matter. But it is because when they arrive, or by the time they arrive, what's already happened has happened. So let's talk about what else we could think about here around metrics. Because here's the real tension. That dashboard most of us inherited is built almost entirely out of, and I mentioned this word earlier, out of lag metrics. Like a lag metric reports the outcome after the work is finished, right? Attendance is a lag metric. Giving is a lag. Baptisms or salvations or membership or event turnout, those are all lag metrics. And they're honest, they're real, and they're always late because they show you what's already happened. Think about what that actually means in practice. Like by the time you see attendance soften on a report, the disengagement in your church or maybe in your broader community that caused it has been happening for months. It could have even been years. Like by the time your dashboard shows giving has dipped, not just 1 week, right, but a little dip over time, the trust or the clarity that drives generosity has been eroding for months. Like the number on your screen is a symptom. The cause has already left the building. So you end up right in this strange loop where you feel incredibly informed and you're almost completely unable to act on that information. You know exactly what happened, but you just found out too late to do really much of anything about it. Like, listen, I lived in that loop for years. I could tell you your trends to, I could have told you our kind of metrics and trends to the decimal, right? I love a good report. But what I couldn't do was get ahead of those numbers if I kept looking at what had already happened. So why does this happen? And I'll tell you what, it's not because you or your XP or whatever is lazy and none of that, right? It's not because you don't care. It's just the design of the scorecard itself. Like here's the principle underneath it, right? Your staff organizes itself around the number you actually watch. Like whatever you put on the board, whatever you ask about in the meeting, whatever shows up in the report, that's what your team learns to produce. And if every number on your board is a lag metric, you've quietly trained your entire team to produce Sunday and then recover from it. Like if attendance is the goal, the room, a full room is the win, right? Everybody worked towards the weekends. And then everything after that kind of just collapses into the next weekend, the next win, the full room. Now, like think about what this does, right? It means nobody really owns Monday. And Monday is when the actual movement happens, or it doesn't, right? A person hears a sermon on Sunday, they experience your church on a Sunday. What they do Monday is more important than what happens in that room on Sunday. Does it move to any discipleship formation? Does it move them to take a step towards their Heavenly Father? But if all we're worried about is attendance on Sunday, we're missing the much bigger picture. Like it really is that the follow-up calls, right? They get made or skipped. It's the first time guest who gets a real next step conversation or gets nothing. It's the volunteer who feels seen or just feels kind of used for the metric on Sunday. And your whole scorecard dashboard points to Sunday, right? And then Monday becomes invisible. So here's the diagnostic question I just want you to sit with for a little while. Who on your team wakes up Monday already thinking about the steps? Like not the service, the steps, the movement of actual people. And if you're honest, and the answer is no one, you don't have an effort problem on your staff. Here's what I think you might have. You might just have a measurement problem on your scoreboard. So here's a shift that you can make. Alongside those lag metrics, don't get rid of those. It's good to know. But alongside your lag metrics, I want you to add some lead metrics. Lead metrics measure the upstream activity that produces the outcomes before the outcome even shows up. So it's the pulse kind of that you can check while the patient is still in the room that lets you know where the patient is going. So let me just give you the ones that matter, I think, for most all churches. Okay, here's just a handful that you could consider, but these are definitely not the end all be all list. So here's one: first time guest who returned within 30 days. That's a really interesting metric. It's a lead metric. And if you see a lot of first time guests coming back at some point within the next month, then it's telling you something about how your church is growing, how it's functioning, how it's fueling maybe even discipleship. So that one number might just be the one predictor of almost everything that happens downstream. Here's another one: follow-up conversations completed within 48 hours of a first-time visit. Like speed of follow-up is one of the strongest signals of whether someone comes back at all. Or maybe this: the percentage of attenders who have taken a defined step. Like not how many showed up, that's a lag, but how many moved, that's a lead, that's a step. Or people crossing, from sitting to serving, maybe in the past 3 months, the past quarter. Like that's something that really shows movement from consumer to contributor. Or clear next step invitations that were actually made this week. How many clear next step invitations did we make this week? Because again, discipleship is all about movement, and movement requires an ask and a step. And most people just aren't asked, and unfortunately, too many churches don't even have a good step. Like think about all of those ideas I just gave you. Those are just lead metric ideas. I mean, lag metrics get reported, right? But lead metrics get, and I love this, get worked. You can't really coach, a scoreboard. There's nothing to do with the final score. That's the scorecard, the dashboard. Once it's happened, it's happened. You just read it and report it. But you can absolutely coach a follow-up. You can coach the speed of phone calls. You can coach who gets developed into a leader next. Like those things are done by humans, not by a metric. And when you measure those things, you're actually measuring where we're going, not just where we've been. So let me just give you some real work you can do this week. I don't want this just to be another interesting idea that we all nod our heads and go, oh yeah, okay, cool. So I don't want you to rebuild your entire dashboard, okay? I mean, you may have to do that eventually one day, but that's not the goal today. But doing nothing is a great way of getting nothing accomplished and nothing seen. So instead of doing nothing or rebuilding everything, here's what you should do. Just pick one lead metric. And maybe it's that guest return rate. I think it's really easy to track. It is very predictable, considering everything you could track, it's one of the more predictable things that shows you if your guest experience is working, if people want to come back. There's so many little things happening in that one piece of data. It's almost like a KPI, a key performance indicator, or maybe for you, it is. So when you track that, you're not just tracking what a person does, you're also forcing your team to flex some muscles around some very important tasks like follow-up, invitations, next step opportunities. So when you begin to kind of track that, everything begins moving because what we measure matters and we work to what we measure. So whether it's that one or something else, just define it so the whole team can measure it the same way. Write down exactly what counts. Like for instance, as a returning guest, and what needs to be done during the window of 30 days to see if we can get them to come back. assign it to somebody. Like give one person and by name, right? Don't give it to a team, give it to a person to do the follow-up work, to figure out how to move this metric. And give them the authority to actually change how follow-up happens or how first-time guest experience happens. And like follow the movement in the metric and see if what you're doing is changing it. And that's it. That's just one metric, one owner, and one number that we're working on for a month or two or three, instead of just glancing at all the lag metrics that happened last week and hoping that they start moving in a better direction. So that's some good work to do. I think that gives you some interesting homework if you really want to take it seriously. And here's a secret. I'll just leave you with this. This is what all great organizations do. This isn't a church idea, it's an organization idea. Because if you just measure lag metrics alone, you're going to always keep leading from behind. Great organizations have figured out that that isn't the best way to lead. You're going to find out, for instance, your attendance is down after the people are gone. You're going to discover giving has kind of softened after the budget is already tight. You're going to learn engagement has faded after the volunteers have already quit showing up, right? So every corrective action just becomes a reaction, and every reaction shows up late. So lead metrics allow us to measure movement, right? And it leaves us clues as we're watching things unpack. So we don't have to start as a reaction. We can respond to things early and often. So what is that lead metric that you need to start tracking? And how would that tracking change the way your church functions?